Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we are specifically going to talk about Gabi Patino and mysteries and the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition community. All right, so let's jump into this. So what the heck does Gabi Patino have to do with Dungeons & Dragons? Well, specifically it has to do with the Dungeons & Dragons community, right? The Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition community specifically. And so let me make the connection. All right. So Gabi Patino, in case you live in a cave, is a woman who disappeared. Okay, a nice young lady who or actually a young lady. I don't know if she's nice or not, but a young lady who just disappeared. Right. And the way she disappeared, there were a lot of people speculating and saying, this looks really suspicious. We think she might have been murdered. Right. And so this just exploded onto the national scene, right? And what it was a very open, very public mystery. It's a public mystery, right? Now, why is this a public mystery? Well, a lot of people in America looked at Gabi Patino and said, "Oh, that young lady shouldn't have disappeared. This is an outrage. Let's find who murdered this person," right? Now, first of all, why doesn't the public just leave this up to the why doesn't the public just leave it up to police officers, right? It's a good question. It's a very legitimate question, right? Well, the answer why is cold cases. There are thousands of cold cases. Police are not able to solve all the mysteries, right? And the American public is like, we're not just going to sit around and let cold cases sit. We want to know. We want justice, especially in murder cases. And we're going to jump in and start subreddits and start, solving this mystery ourselves. And we're going to aid with bringing justice for, murders that have happened, right? So the American public just got super, super interested in Gabi Patino, right? Now, what happened with Gabi Patino, and this is one of the things is it's just so exciting, right? Like people want to know. They want to know, what happened to Gabi Patino, who harmed her, right? And here's the issue, right? The thing with what happened with Gabi Patino is like this exploded at a level. A lot of murder mysteries, and actually, so I don't know if we know for sure yet whether Gabi Patino was murdered or not, but this is essentially mystery from the perspective of people who are saying, was this a murder? Was it an accident? Blah, blah, blah. So with this mystery, people just got fascinated with it, right? And it started a huge debate in public about whether the American public was being fair when it wants to solve mysteries, right? And so basically everybody trotted out a lot of old lines. There's a ton of people who are really against true crime. They're like, we don't like these amateurs getting in here and trying to solve crime, right? But first of all, one of the things, it gets messy, okay? Because here's the facts on the ground. The reason why you have a bunch of amateurs trying to solve mysteries is the police don't solve them all. And there are thousands of cold cases, right? And people don't want cold cases. They want murders to be solved, right? And that seems like a very legitimate request from the public. Like, there shouldn't be just a big question mark if somebody disappears. We should know, and justice should be brought, right? So, but a lot of people are like, oh, these amateurs, we don't really like having amateurs in the mix, right? And so there was this real big question about whether American mystery enthusiasts who are amateurs should be involved in murder mysteries, right? And whether they're trying to solve mysteries is helpful or harmful, right? All right, so it's a big question, right? And I feel like people saying, oh, this is harmful, I don't even tell you, right? They're like, oh, these people they're just doing it because of prurient interests. They don't really care about justice. They just care about, crime and dead people, and, they want to be close to their favorite SCI, and all these, like, saying amateurs really suck and they're not helpful, right? But one of the best things I heard in all this Gabi Patino stuff is like, hey, Nancy Grace makes a career out of this, but I try to do the same thing, and suddenly I'm the bad guy. And a lot of amateurs were saying that, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. That's like Nancy Grace has a legitimate career and is respected, and like everybody else is like, and like literally gets paid for it, right? And she's doing exactly the same thing the amateurs are doing, right? She's not a criminal, nor are journalists, right? Like, so So here's where we land. I am totally down with amateur American mystery enthusiasts trying to solve the Gabi Patino situation, right? To see if it was a murder or if it wasn't, and if it's a murder, trying to solve the murder, right? And now, what does it have to do with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? Well, it's a big deal. Here's the kicker, right? So, once you get amateurs involved, right, they're going to try to solve the mystery, and a lot of times people's lives get trampled on, okay? And that's why, because in the middle of mysteries, in order to find, to solve a mystery, you got to trample right into people's privacy, right? And that gets very unusual and strange, right? So here's the issue. Here's where it connects to the Dungeons & Dragons community. And I'm definitely part of this, right? What about Dungeons & Dragons mysteries? You're like, what? Dungeons & Dragons mysteries? Yeah, there's a lot of them, right? Like, I got a list of them. I'm going to give them to you right now. What the heck happened to Kate Welch, right? I believe, without a doubt, if you look at the evidence, she was 100% queued up to be the first female Dungeons & Dragons design lead. We've had six white male design leads, right? And I think Wizards of the Coast is very smart, and they were like, we can't let this happen. Let's get somebody in the queue who can take this over, right? And then Kate Welch just bounced out of Wizards of the Coast, and nobody knows why, right? Like, it's a mystery, right? I want that mystery desperately solved, right? Now, I will say this, right? I watch very carefully, but I've been very careful not to pry into Kate Welch's personal life, right? Because I'm like, this could get, like, I might find answers I don't want to find, right? Like, or that Kate Welch don't want found, right? Like, it's strange, right? And here's the next one. Why did Monty Cook leave the 5th edition design team, right? There was a blow up, there was friction between him and Mike Merles, right? Why did he leave? I have actually literally asked him this question. He was like, oh, it was no big deal. We just had a disagreement, right? Like, and I'm like, I think there's more, right? In addition to that, where is the instrument of the bard? What's the instrument of the bard? The violin that Gary Gygax's father owned. That is a D&D artifact, right? I would like to own that sucker, right? And I'm like, where is that thing, right? That's a D&D mystery, right? And there are many, 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 many more, right? Like, just a ton of Dungeons & Dragons mysteries, and there's just going to continue to be more and more mysteries, right? How do we, in a fair way, jump in and interact with these mysteries, right? We don't want to trample into private lives. However, and this is where this whole video is going to end, I think, going forward, everyone who is going to connect themselves significantly to Dungeons & Dragons needs to realize the second you connect yourself significantly to Dungeons & Dragons, you are sacrificing privacy, right? And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons is a public figure in America, right? It is a public entity, right? And people want to know every single thing about it. So, like, Kate Welch attached herself to it for a while, and now she is somewhat of a public figure, right? And so I think that's one of the things. I think that's where I'm going to end this, is just a warning. If you want privacy, do not attach yourself to Dungeons & Dragons, because Dungeons & Dragons is an element of Americana. It is an element of American history, right? And the moment you attach yourself significantly, people are going to want to come and ask questions about you, right? They're not trying to get into your private life. They're just saying, hey, I want to know about Dungeons & Dragons. If you attach yourself to it, you are pretty much a public figure, right? And honestly, even as dungeon masters, the moment we begin playing, we make our private lives the business of our players, right? That's my opinion. What do you think? What do you think is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition community's right to investigate Dungeons & Dragons mysteries? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.